I'm Erin, I'm the Content Manager at APMP, and welcome to On the Record with APMP. Today I'm joined by Kel Raleigh. Kel is a Proposal Manager and is here to talk about executive summaries. So I've heard a lot about executive summaries, but obviously not working in the field myself, I get a little bit confused. There's a lot of mixed messages, and I would love to know from you, what are we actually trying to achieve when we write an executive summary?
Right. I think a lot of folks, when they think of an executive summary, they think of it as a chore. They think of it as something, let's throw it in at once we finish writing the proposal, and, we put it at the front. But what we really want to achieve with an executive summary is something that is unique to every customer, unique to our company, our solution, and create something that is easily evaluated. Because oftentimes what we get is the executive summary is the only thing that someone might look at before they decide they're going to read your proposal or not. So we want something that an evaluator can look at it and say, they are going to answer all of our questions, they're going to hit all of our requirements, let's keep reading.
Wow. So you said there that this is likely to be one of the only parts that someone will read before deciding.
Yeah, it can be. Often what we see is that different sections of the proposal might get read by different evaluators. Someone might read your past performance section, someone might read your technical solution based on what their role is as an evaluator. But often we see that the executive summary might get read by either everyone or someone who makes that initial decision. So is this going to answer all of the requirements when you can do an executive summary? Because you can't always, based on the page limits or based on the RFP requirements. There are some times when it specifically says only provide what we've asked you to provide. But when you can do it, you can create something that lays out exactly what you're going to give them in a way that's creative and tells your story customized to the problem.
That makes sense, because what I was going to say there when you said that different people are reading different sections of your proposal is that makes it very difficult then to present a cohesive start to finish narrative that convinces someone that your solution's the best.
Right, and that's why we really look for the executive summary to be that heart of storytelling, that part where you see that all of our past performance, all of our technical solution, everything goes together to give you something that's going to answer your problem. So I like to, lay out whether it's a requirement or a need, and then, what is our strength and how are we going to demonstrate it? It's almost like creating a cross-reference matrix early in the proposal.
Great. So you're telling a story then. You mentioned creativity. I would be interested to hear how you are translating your strengths in a business, which seems like kind of an objective criteria, into a narrative story like that.
Yeah, well, I'm frequently saying that the executive summary is the heart of the proposal, even though it comes at the very beginning. It's also the heart of creativity. So a lot of folks who are in proposal management often come from creative backgrounds or liberal arts backgrounds, maybe not necessarily technical, roles. And so using the executive summary as a location in the proposal where you get to think about, here is our customer's problem, here is our what. This is what we are going to do to solve the problem. And then, how have we demonstrated that in the past? How are we going to keep up with it? And why does it even matter? All of those things, it would take up too much room if you put them all together. So use your creativity, stretch your muscles, and say, okay, how do we take these, 6 important points and put them into a snappy one sentence that allows our evaluator to say, oh, this is how they're going to do it, I can pass this on.
Great. And so in that respect, you want it to be very readable and very relatable to the evaluator who's reading it.
Absolutely. The executive summary is not a place for jargon.
Right.
You can use the technical jargon that you have to use later on in the technical solution if it, aligns with the RFP. But the executive summary should be exactly like you said. It should be readable. It should be something that anyone could pick up and say, I understand what you're selling me. I understand your story and how your story relates to mine. It shouldn't be something that is so riddled with, technical language that it just gets bogged down.
Mm-hmm. But how do you then navigate the tricky waters of including things like price and compliance, things that you can't really not include in the executive summary but kind of get in the way of that narrative?
So typically we don't look to put price in the executive summary. Often RFPs call for price to be its own volume. They call for price to be separate because you want to score first based on technical solution and what you can offer, and price is often different criteria. So we're not looking to write to price too much, but that's not to say that it's not important in the executive summary, because if your company's been around for a while and you've been doing this, you might be a little pricier than another company that's newer. So you have to say, look, we do it right the first time. We do it in a way that you're not going to have to spend money down the line to get another solution. So finding a way to word that in your executive summary while not blatantly saying, we know we're expensive, is really critical.
That's really interesting. You can use that executive summary to proactively get ahead of things that could go against you later down the line.
Mm-hmm.
If we're trying to proactively overcome these things that might become challenges later on, surely that must be difficult to do without input from a lot of people.
Yes, and this is really an area where we draw on, the full team, whether that is, depending on how big your team is, if it's proposal manager or writer and a CEO, or if you have, a capture manager and a business development manager, this is where you pull your whole team into it, and I really like to call what I call a win strategy meeting, and it's sort of part of the kickoff, but it is a very focused area where we get to lay out what do we know about this customer, and not only what is in the RFP, because everyone can read the RFP. We can fully, understand this is what a customer is asking for. This is the solution that they need. But what else do we know about them? Are they having staffing turnover? Are they having an issue with their funding? Or are they having, data migration issues where they need to migrate from an old system to a new system? What do they need to be brought into this generation maybe? And so this is a place where you call on your business development, you call on your capture, who brought this to the table, and who do we know there, and if we don't know anybody, what can we find out? This is a place to put all of that research and lay it out and almost go line item, say, okay, they're having turnover issues. How can we solve that? How have we done it in the past? This is a place to be collaborative. This is where you, as a proposal manager, work as a leader of a team. Even though, maybe you're lower on the totem pole at times, this is where you pull people in and say, we need to figure out what we know, and we need to figure out why our solution will help us win here. And then you can be creative and go back to everything that we said and create a narrative story that allows the evaluator to read it and say, okay, I know that they're going to solve my problem.
Well, to close this out then, do you have maybe a couple of top tips for writing an executive summary, maybe for someone who's never done it before?
Yeah, I think my number one strategy is that if you don't write it first, you're going to write it forever. So
I like that.
Thank you. Write it and then refine it. So I really like to, I've collaborated with my team. I'm going to write my executive summary. And then as I'm working through the proposal, I'll go back and I'll rewrite it. I'll refine it. I'll say, oh, we really talk about this here. We don't even mention it in the executive summary. I need to go back and make sure that it's added in. Or say, these were our original main points, but we don't even talk about this, but we do talk about this. Let's move it out. So I think write it and refine it rather than writing it after you've done the whole proposal.
Yeah, it seems like you really need like a bird's eye view of
Definitely.
everything going on. Well, great. I feel like I know so much more about how to write an executive summary now. If you ever need help with one, let me know.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, definitely.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Feel free to take home your On the Record with APMP microphone with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kel.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you here.